So if you couldn't tell by the vlogs, I did attend Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood 2018 two times, same pattern as most years prior. Got to attend 2017 twice, came back from Arizona 2 times for that one. Same thing this time. The first trip, it was just me, my dad, my sister, my dad's girlfriend's son, and my sister's boyfriend. We all went out there, so I took a bus from Flagstaff. I left on Friday night at around 11 o'clock at night, and then I got to San Diego around 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, the day we went to Horror Nights, and then we did Horror Nights. And then the next day, I got on a bus around 9 a.m. and I got back to Arizona on Monday around 3 in the morning. So it was a jam-packed weekend, but that one was worth it. And then the next trip was very, very lucky enough to have my beautiful girlfriend out here. She somehow became convinced that she wanted to go to Horror Nights with me, and she has a car, so we drove out there. We left Friday around 4 o'clock after my classes got out, and we drove straight from Arizona to San Diego, got there around midnight. Next day, woke up, got ready, drove up to LA. This trip, it was me, my sister, my girlfriend, and then one of my lifelong best friends. You saw him in the video. You saw him last year too. So yeah, those were the trips. And then the next day, I had a little bit more time because I didn't have to be on a bus traveling all day. But we drove back, leaving San Diego around 4 o'clock, and then got to Arizona around midnight again. So yeah, great trips. Time to review them. So I'm just gonna kind of go through my night, go through what I experienced each time. I did everything in the same order, so I'm just gonna go through the experiences. So I'm gonna start off with the first house that we did, this house being Stranger Things. Now, the first trip, we just ran right to Stranger Things because as soon as we got in, they had already opened Stranger Things. And then the second time, we did a little sneaky, and just like we did in 2017, which, I mean, Universal should monitor that a bit more carefully, but I don't think they will. We snuck into Wizarding World of Harry Potter, we rode Forbidden Journey, we came out, and then we went down to Stranger Things. So Stranger Things was the first maze we experienced. Both trips, we only got to do it those 2 times. It was a really decent maze. I'm not going to say it was great, I'm not going to say it was terrible, it was decent. The Demogorgon costumes, they looked pretty cool. The face actors were meh. I wish they featured a lot more of the Upside Down. The scares were really hit or miss. I got a lot more scares in there the second trip, but the first trip it was just like, I think I got one with the very first Demogorgon, and then it was nothing. This meh. I expected it to be a lot better, although it wasn't a soundstage. I definitely expected the soundstage would add to it. However, I don't think it really added much except for the lab scene. That's really the only thing where it felt like it was in a soundstage. The rest of it, not so much. Moving on, now my original game plan was to go down to First Purge. However, every night, First Purge didn't open until way later, so we just put that on off for a bit. And the next maze to open up was Trick or Treat. I shouldn't say or, just Trick or Treat. Mike Dougherty, one of my favorite films, and my second highest ranked maze for this year. I loved this maze. Yeah, there were a lot of black walls. However, I just kind of got used to them. I got used to them with The Exorcist, and I thought that maze worked incredibly well. I got used to them with The Shining, and I love The Shining maze. It is one of my favorites still. However, that one, it just felt like they were a bit more unnecessary, but still, budget has to happen. It'd be like that sometimes. So Trick or Treat, I thought the black walls did make a bit of sense because the transitions just would have been weird, jumping from these crazy different scenes, like going from a principal's house to a party in the middle of the woods. It's weird. So the transitions they helped ease into everything for the story, and especially if you've seen the movie as many times as I have, you know the story and you would just know the scenes. The Sam costume, it was just perfect. I got scared so many times in there. The black walls, they get me. I'm not gonna be like someone who's a mega fan and be like, yeah, no, I never get scared at this event. I just go and I enjoy it. No, I get scared all the freaking time. That maze got me a lot. Loved seeing the werewolves. Those werewolf puppets were back. The princess werewolf girls, they got me quite often. I would be distracted by one and then another one would come out of nowhere. The Corey kids, that one scared the crap out of me. And actually, one of the coolest things that happened was I didn't know that this had happened until, the following day, but I was informed by John on his Twitter that he said the night that I went the second time around, Mike Dougherty was there, and he was in the trick-or-treat maze dressed up as one of the School Bus Massacre kids around the same time that my girlfriend and I went and did a repeat of that maze. So, most likely, we got scared by Mike Dougherty, and that's just freaking cool. So yeah, that maze was awesome. I loved it. Not much else really to say, so now we're going to move on down to the back lot. Did we go through Toxic Tunnel? I mean, we went through Toxic Tunnel. Okay, I'll talk about Toxic Tunnel. Toxic Tunnel is a load of crap. I'm being honest. The strobe lights were a little better than the year before, but really it's a tunnel. You can't really do much to the tunnel. It's just, you can't put sets in there. You just have to depend on the lights, the music, and the actors. Although I will say, the cast for this one, while they had kind of the worst zone, they definitely did make the fun out of it. Because I did see at one point one guy running through just being chased by another guy. He pinned him up against the wall and he just started screaming with him. It was hilarious. I did put part of that clip into my vlog, so if you happen to catch that vlog, you might have seen that, depending if you stuck around for the whole thing, because I take really long vlogs. Maybe I'll work on that this year, cut them down, but I don't really think so. So yeah, Toxic Tunnel, meh. Moving on down to the next maze that we went through, which is Poltergeist. This one is my number 3 ranked for this year. I totally forgot I got to rank where Stranger Things was. Stranger Things is my number 5 for this year. So Stranger Things is 5, Trick or Treat is 2, Poltergeist is at number 3. So, Poltergeist. I really, really loved this maze. Scared the crap out of me. You really can't complain much about black walls in this maze, except for that one very long stretch, but yet again, budgets come into play. Things happen, unfortunately. However, that long stretch was pretty much it. The rest of the maze was stellar. The puppetry scared the crap out of me every time. And the one scene, I have not really felt so much fear walking into a scene, knowing what to expect, yet still not knowing, than the coffin scene, my second trip around. Because I knew they were in there, and I didn't know where they were, and there was no one in front of me to tell. So I got all of the scares from all the coffin people. It scared the crap out of me, but I loved it. Poltergeist, definitely a great maze. Very happy that John finally pulled this one off. Moving on to the number 6 rated maze, Blumhouse 2. Truth or Dare portion was just meh. That movie was terrible, so the portion was just meh. Even John, he based most of the maze off of scenes that were cut from the film. The Unfriended portion, while it was interesting, I wasn't that blown away by it. And the girl, oh man, that was a disappointment and a half. That was very disappointing, unfortunately. Because I really was looking forward to the girl portion just because it was like, oh, it's something original they're coming up with, it's going to be cool. And it was just full of black walls and boring. No scares, nothing. The only part that I really enjoyed about the maze was that first scene that you walked into in Truth or Dare where like it flashed and you would see Truth or Dare painted on the walls. I thought it looked cool. That's about it. Moving on to the lowest ranked maze of the year. The First Purge. Bad things happen, so good things happen. I'm going to just take a guess and say that a lot of the budget from the first Purge maze was cut to fund a more superior maze for this year. Just gonna take a guess. The maze was full of black hallways. The character masks just looked bad. Was not good. The first Purge, I truly liked the movie, and I thought that there was a lot of maze potential. It didn't translate, unfortunately. I think the biggest letdown for me was the fact that in the alleyway, there weren't even stuffed animals hanging from the ceiling. That was a huge disappointment. Like, that scene practically wrote itself for a maze, and then just nothing. Oh well. moving on to the Terror Tram. Now, I said in my vlog, tram was alright. I always think that the tram is just alright. Besides the fact that I get to walk on the movie sets, it's just alright. However, this Terror Tram happens to be my favorite of all of the Terror Trams I've been on, just because it was so much fun. The on-tram video was awesome. The guy that played Koodles the Clown, Hollywood Harry, was fantastic. I actually did see him several times in Trick or Treat, and I always said, like, "Hey, Hollywood Harry," and he always pointed at me with the bat, and I was just like, "I know who you are. You don't know who I am, but I know who you are." It was funny. So, yeah, I thought it was really fun, and actually, if you did see my video from the second vlog that I did, my trip on, it was like the 4th or the 3rd or something, whatever day that was in November, I did run into John right at the beginning of the tram, and luckily I was able to stop and talk with him for a bit. I was just originally like, I stood there and I talked with him, and then the team members were ushering me, telling me like, "Hey, come on, get a move on, get a move on." And then John was like, "Hey, no, let him hang for a bit." So he let me stay there and talk. I talked with him, got him to sign my map, took a picture with him, and then when I was ready to move on, the guards were like, "Whoa, stop." And the Chainsaw Brigade all had to line up, so we were right at the front of where the Chainsaw Brigade started again. So that was cool. We got to see Log Bunny twice. Not as fun as doing the walk, though. The clown portion, Clowns on a Plane, that one was it was tons of fun. This tram really was a good one, especially this is the second original theme tram that I've seen. I did like this one a lot more than the last time Hollywood Harry was featured. So now we're going to move on to the next maze of the night, that one being Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. So, I didn't expect much for this maze, honestly. I don't like the Halloween movie. However, I did very much enjoy the previous 2 Halloween mazes that John has done at Horror Nights, at least the ones that I've experienced. However, the fact that there was no original ending to this one, I was a little let down. However, this maze really stunned me. Like, out of all of the mazes, I would say this is the one that smashed my expectations the most, because I didn't have many expectations for it. I just thought it was going to be it's Halloween 4. No, I was getting scared left and right. The scenes were huge. It was really well done with all the effects and stuff. That last scene with the electricity, that just looked phenomenal. There were really minimal black walls, which I very much enjoyed. The fact that there were very few black walls up until the very end, it was great. The Halloween mazes always just do something to me. They just always get me every single time. So, I mean, it was great. This maze, I was going to say places and ranks, but they both just kind of blended together. So, this maze ranks at my number 4 spot for the year, leaving only one maze left and only one spot left to take the number 1 spot. So I'm going to go over the rankings and then talk about some mazes. Or, not some mazes. One maze, specifically. So number 7, The First Purge, and I give this one 0.5 out of 5, meaning bad. Blumhouse 2, 1 out of 5, also bad. Stranger Things gets a 3 out of 5, so it's not great, but it's not terrible. Halloween 4 gets a 4 out of 5 because it's really good. Poltergeist got a 4.5 out of 5, almost perfect, but just that long stretch of black hallway really killed it for me. The rest of the effects were great. Trick or Treat, 4.75 out of 5. Just tons of fun, great representation of the film that I love. And the 5 out of 5, number 1 ranked maze for 2018 and all of my time at Horror Nights, Universal Monsters Maze Music by Slash. This maze was everything I hoped it would be, and so much more. Like, I miss it. I miss it so much. This maze was the one that I did the most out of, I think it was the most. I did Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat and Universal Monsters. I believe they were done the most out of my trip. They were both done 4 times each. And I think that's the most I've done any maze except for Halloween in 2015. I did that one 5 times. So Universal Monsters was just phenomenal. The music, let me start off with the music. Oh man. Okay, so I already told you I'm personally biased to love Slash. However, it was just, wow, it was more than I could have expected. Am I about to run out of time? Oh no, I'm not about to run out of time. Okay, cool. Usually my camera does this thing where it like shuts off at a certain time, but I guess it didn't do that now, so hey, that's pretty good. So yeah, I'm personally biased. I love Slash. He got me to pick up the guitar in the first place. But man, I was not expecting his music to go that hard. Universal, like the Monsters, Madmen, and Maniacs, that theme, you know, it's... the operatic portion of it is beautiful. Dracula's Lair / the Collection Room, that one is just... it's a creepy vibe and I love it. We Belong Dead is my favorite of all of them. I really love the mix of electronic and shreddy guitar. Universal Monsters Rising, it's just a great intro to the maze. Dance of the Dead and Final Scare are both fantastic ways to end up the maze. I listen to this soundtrack all the time and I'm always like, wow, I really miss this maze. The makeups were all phenomenal. They all looked just amazing for this maze. Frankenstein looked awesome. Wolfman, unfortunately, was only featured once, but he still looked great. Dracula, it sucked that Dracula wasn't in there for a scare more as it's a presentation, but he still looked awesome. The brides were freaky. Phantom was personally my favorite of the makeups. Honestly, I never got to see the Mummy. The Mummy never popped out at me on all four. Renfield, he was fantastic. The Bride of Frankenstein, We Belong Dead room was just... oh, the last time I went through there, I looked at Frankenstein and I said to him, "We belong dead." And then he pulled the lever and then the music went off and I was like, oh man, that was perfect. Ending the maze with the scare zone was just perfect because, you know, you take a deep breath and you think it's over and then all of a sudden you got more monsters. Those monsters looked great. I wish I could go into the zone more and walk around rather than just going through it as I exit, but still the way it was set up was fantastic. I only got to see the Red Death Phantom like twice, but still, fantastic. The scares in that maze were just beyond amazing. I think there was one run through. It was my third run through of the maze, so the first one of the second trip. Frankenstein right at the start, and before you enter the tomb. Living statue in the tomb. Wolfman. The bodies in the tomb. Frankenstein as soon as you enter the castle. Frankenstein in the screen. Phantom in the black walls. And then all the ones at the black hallway at the end. And then as I exited, I saw, you know, the Hunchback walking through, like, I thought he was going in for a cast change, and then all of a sudden I looked around to find my group, and he was right behind me, and I jumped and, like, started to kind of run away, but then I caught myself. It was fantastic. There was one point in the black hallways where just the Mummy did outstanding. Okay, so I did see the Mummy. He was in the black hallway, though. So the Mummy, he was on the platform, and then he jumped out of the platform to get up into my face when I was going through, and I was like blown away. That was one of the best scares I've ever gotten at the event. It was astounding. The sets for this maze, they looked beautiful. The only real disappointment is knowing that John wanted more for this. He wanted the Gypsy Caravan scene with the Wolfman, and he wanted to throw in Creature from the Black Lagoon in the collection room. He probably wanted less black walls. But nonetheless, this maze was amazing. And also, honorable mention to the Invisible Man scene. That scene just looked awesome. This is my favorite maze of all time. I was so just... I think the first thing I said to John when asking him, like, how are you? Like, how are you doing? Stuff like that. The first thing I said to him was, huge congratulations on Universal Monsters. Like, it's the best maze I've ever been through. So... now we're going to talk about the rest of the scare zones that I haven't talked about. So I talked about Toxic Tunnel. Let's talk about... I already talked about Monster Masquerade. I thought that was fantastic. Let's go to the number 4 one. That's Hell's Harvest. I thought Hell's Harvest was good. It was a fun entrance zone. I didn't really spend much time in there, just unless I was going around walking, shooting B-roll. I really only saw them during the chase out. However, during the chase out, they were fun. They were always dancing around and stuff. There was one point in my first vlog that I did where I was like on the side headbanging. I mean, you guys see how long my hair is? My hair is really freaking long. So I was just on the side headbanging to the music, and then they all came over and started doing that, and I was like, yeah, I did that. So they were all really cool. They were all fun. They would like find each other's pairs and then like link arms and be like, oh, it's us, we're twins. It was just, the cast was funny. The next zone that I'll talk about was one that was, honestly, it was ranked #1 after my first trip. However, it dropped to #3 after my second trip, and this one is Holidays in Hell. While I do love Holidays in Hell, it just got a little lackluster after the second time, just because it was, I don't really know how to describe it. It was just meh the second time around. The first time it was fun. Like, it was just, it's a fun scare zone. It wasn't really meant to be scary, even though I did get a lot of scares in there. It was fun. The scenery was cool, but the scare zone that took the #1 spot, it was all closing night, or night before closing night. That is the night that just, that sealed the deal for this to be the #1 of this year, and also my favorite scare zone of all time. So this one is Trick or Treat. Now I'll rank the zones that I've done. So #5, Toxic Tunnel, 4, Hell's Harvest, 3, Holidays in Hell, 2, Monster Masquerade, and 1, Trick or Treat. Now, why was Trick or Treat my favorite? It was nothing really special the first time. I didn't really spend much time in there. But the second trip around, I spent so much time walking around Trick or Treat, seeing the cast everywhere. The principal, he is the best character I've ever seen. Followed by, the werewolf girls, but man, that principal, he would jump in line of Universal Monsters and scare people through the line. He would come out of nowhere and just scare us. I saw him later on as I was walking, following the chainsaw chase out, and I gave him a high five because he was just so on point. So if any of you know who the principal, who had the high energy in the Trick or Treat zone was, tell them they are the best, because he was on point. The werewolf girls, they were awesome. They were just always scaring me. I would just be walking, filming B-roll, looking down at my camera, then all of a sudden they'd be in my face, and I'm like, ooh, crap, I did not expect them to be there. It was awesome. The little school bus set with Sam in there, it was just an amazing photo op. I have a picture on my desk that my girlfriend got me. It's a picture of her and I sitting on the steps of the Trick or Treat bus, because we both love Trick or Treat. And with Sam in there and all the kids, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. Unfortunately, I'm sad that I missed out on closing night where they had Sam in a costume walking around the Trick or Treat zone, but oh well. So I loved that. So, honestly, that wraps up 2018. Where does this rank in my year of all years? Honestly, while 2016 was the best quality year I've ever seen, I've never had a year give me so many favorites in one. Favorite tram, favorite maze of all time, favorite zone of all time. 3 mazes, including Trick or Treat, have ended up in my top 5 zone of all time. Those ones, Trick or Treat, Monster Masquerade, and Holidays in Hell. And then the 3 mazes, which are Poltergeist, Trick or Treat, and Universal Monsters, ended up in my top 10 of all time. This is my favorite year, just because the trips were fun, things, the entire year might not have been as solid, but certain elements of it made it my favorite, just because that's just how it is. This one is my favorite year of all time. I'm very sad to see it go. However, we say goodbye to 2018 and we usher in 2019, which we're already 25 days in, but still, that's fine. So, thank you all for watching. Leave a like. Comment what you thought about 2018. Subscribe to keep up with 2019. See, I didn't mess it up this time. So follow the social media, HHMFan13 on Twitter. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.